Hello friends, welcome back to Being Mrs. Fraser. Today I'm making our entire Thanksgiving completely from scratch, from the turkey to all the classic sides. We are trying something new this year, an air fried turkey in the oven. I'll also be making homemade cranberry sauce, a stovetop style stuffing, creamy mashed potatoes, and sweet cream corn. It's going to be a cozy day in the kitchen full of all those comforting Thanksgiving meals. So come along and let's go ahead and start with this turkey. I do like to start with the turkey first since it takes the longest to cook. So this year, like I said, I am air frying it right in the oven. I'm hoping that it gives a nice golden crispy skin and juicy meat without deep fat frying it. I am just going to lather some butter on it, get some seasonings on there, and throw her in the oven at 350 degrees on the air fryer setting. Next up is the cranberry sauce. I want to do this one next because that way it has some time to chill before dinner. So I am just using some fresh cranberries. Actually, these were frozen from last year and they are perfectly just fine. Some sugar, orange juice, and cinnamon. I just throw it all in the pan together, although you could technically do the cinnamon or the sugar and the orange juice first, but I just threw it all in there. I let it come up to a very nice rapid boil, and then I turned down the temperature down to like a medium low just so it simmers until it's nice and thick and absolutely delicious. Now, I will say once this got nice and cooled, which I did cool it in the fridge, it got very much more of a jelly consistency. And you guys, spoiler, but this one is absolutely delicious. You're not going to want to miss out. Next up is my homemade stovetop style stuffing. It's cozy, buttery, and full of flavor, just like the box version, but better. So I did make some homemade bread to do this. Of course, I used my bread machine to make the dough and prep everything. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut this bread up and cube it. Now, if you don't want to make your bread homemade, you absolutely do not have to. Go to the store, get you a loaf of some bread from your bakery, and just cube up that. I did leave this out for the day, basically. I made it in the morning, and honestly, it probably could have sat out for another day. However, your girl was busy. I forgot. I got sidetracked and didn't realize we didn't have any homemade bread. So I made some, and like I said, I just cubed it up and put it on to the cookie sheet. And although the recipe calls for 10 minutes, mine actually took 20. Like I said, purely because I didn't let it get stale enough, if you will. So definitely make sure that you're using stale bread. If not, it's just going to take a little bit longer in the oven to toast up. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I'm not going to lie. I am not big on stuffing or dressing or whatever you want to call it, whether it's with the innards, in the bird, whatever. I'm just not a huge fan of it, but your girl loves some stovetop. But you guys all know my goal this year is trying to make things as much from scratch as possible. And this one hit the nail on the head. It was absolutely perfect. I could not tell the difference between the box. Well, yes, I could, because this one was way better. If you try anything in this video, I definitely want you guys to try this one, especially if you guys are used to using the box. Now, I get that it takes a little bit of pre-planning, and that's perfectly okay. It's just going to take a little longer, but you could totally do this like a week in advance before your holiday. You can make the bread and put all the seasonings into a bag. Write down what you need as far as what you need to mix the dry ingredients to make the actual like stovetop. I kid you not, it's exactly the same thing, except for you're just making the bread and putting in some ingredients. Absolutely the same thing, but it's so much better. And it tastes better because, you put all the hard work into making it. So definitely give this one a try. Again, you can make this up to a week in advance. You can keep it in the pantry. If you'd like to make it even farther in advance, you could totally put it in the freezer for about 6 months or so, which is actually perfect because this recipe makes 2 boxes, technically, or 2 separate bags, if you will, approximately 3 cups or so of bread. Is what you're going to get. So I will say I cooked the entire 6 cups, but you do what's best for your family, and what size would be more adequate for your family. So honestly, this would be 2 boxes of the box stuff if you bought it from the store. So if that gives you kind of an idea of how much you need to make. But like I said, you could totally make this in advance, make it for Thanksgiving, and then put that extra bag in the freezer and keep it until Christmas. Or if you made it at Christmas time, you could totally throw it in the freezer and keep it in there until Easter. For the video purpose, I did go ahead and show you how I would write on the bag and put everything into the bag and mix it all up. Now, if you're making this the same day, you could totally put it in a bowl, mix it all in a bowl, and go about it that way. But I just wanted to give you guys the realistic look of it by putting it in the bag, so that way you could see how to store it and whatnot. But I am going to use, like I said, this whole bag for my family. I did use 2.5 cups of broth and 4 tablespoons of butter. Basically just doubling the recipe. I did note on the recipe it is for half of your bread cubes. So make sure you guys remember that. You're going to need to double that part when you go to make this if you use the full 6 cups. But again, look at that. Absolutely easy. So delicious. Now, I will say you could totally add in some celery or anything like that if you would like. I would just cut it up and add it to the boiling broth. And also, if you don't want to use broth, you could totally use water as well. I prefer broth. I think it gives far more flavor, and it was just absolutely delicious. But anyway, you could use celery if you want. Your girl don't like it, so I didn't add it. It is what it is. But definitely give this one a try and let me know what y'all think. For the mashed potatoes, I am using the Pioneer Woman's recipe. It's always creamy and perfect. My mother-in-law is actually the one who showed me this recipe, and little fun fact, I actually have been to the Pioneer Woman's house, I guess. We drove by the ranch, but we actually went to the Mercantile, or the restaurant down in Pawhuska, I think that's what it's called, in Oklahoma. It's actually been many, many, many years ago, but it was a quick drive from Kansas City, and we had been in Kansas City that weekend, so we just drove down, like I said, ate at the restaurant, did a little shopping, and then drove up by the ranch. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go inside, but that's okay. We were still able to meet Rhea, because her and her husband actually came out to Baker's, which is under the Kroger umbrella in Omaha, out West Omaha in Nebraska, to sign cookbooks. And so my mother-in-law and I and one of my daughters actually stood in this long line that wrapped around the store, wrapped around the building on the outside. It was so cold because it was wintertime. And if you guys know anything about Nebraska in the wintertime, it can get pretty frigid. And so we stood out there, and I don't even know how long. I feel like we were out there for hours before the line even started moving. But it was such a funny experience, because I had to laugh at my mother-in-law because she got to meet Rhea first. And I'm going to tell you what, Rhea is absolutely a doll. She is so nice. But my mother-in-law just sat there and grinned the whole time at this poor lady. And then it was my turn, and I did the same thing. I couldn't even bring myself to talk. I was just completely starstruck. She's one of the very few famous people that I've actually met in my life. And so it was just so funny, but it was such a great experience. Her husband, Lad, is so incredibly nice, and he signs our cookbooks as well. So it was definitely a great, great experience. And your girl is kind of a collector, if you didn't know, of Rhea Drummond or Pioneer Woman cookbooks. So I have a few of them, and yes, I do still have the one that is signed. But anyway, as far as the mashed potatoes go, The recipe does call to use either Yukon Gold or russet, but I used both. I kind of like the mixture of it. It gives it a little bit of a different flavor, makes it a little bit more creamier, especially with those golds in there. And then you just add in the butter and cream cheese and the half and half and regular, like heavy cream as well. So I actually used about a half a stick more butter in the mashed potatoes than I probably should have, and I probably should have used a few more little pads of butter, but it still turned out absolutely delicious. Again, these can also be made ahead of time. You can make them the day before and then just reheat them in the oven. Instead of throwing them in the oven now, you could put them in the oven right before you make your meal for all your family. So definitely give these a try. Again, I will leave the links for the recipes in the description if you guys are interested, or you can go ahead and make sure you're screenshotting the recipes that I'm sharing with you guys on the screen. But again, this one is so delicious. I don't even know. I know I said that the stovetop was my favorite, but this one was absolutely delicious as well. This cream corn is so simple, but so good. I just melted down the butter and added in flour. Now you want to let that cook out a little bit to get rid of that flour flavor before adding in your milk. And I did use whole milk. And then once that gets nice and thick, it happens quick, so pay attention, keep stirring. You could even use a whisk at this point. Just keep stirring. See how thick that got? Then you're going to want to add in your frozen corn, and it does need to be frozen. So once you add in your frozen corn, add in your sugar, add in your salt, add in your pepper, and just keep stirring. You do not want this to burn. You have to keep it moving on this stove. It will burn so easily. Let me tell you how I know from experience. But anyway, so we're going to kind of let this warm up a little bit. We do want to put a cover on it. Do not make fun of my cover, y'all. This is all I have for this. It doesn't come with a lid, so we just use a plate and it works out. But I will say that I did add a splash more of milk, just a splash, because it wasn't quite getting as runny or like thinned out, I guess, as I wanted it to once that corn fully warmed up. But this was absolutely delicious. Again, so super simple and absolutely perfect side dish to your meal. So the turkey is done. It came out perfectly, nice, golden, crispy, and so juicy inside. It took about 3 hours or so. I will say that it probably could have actually come out a little bit sooner. The breasts were probably just a hair overdone, but they were still really good. I am also going to go ahead and set everything else out since everything else is ready to serve. The homemade cranberry sauce, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, that cream corn, and our air fried turkey were all so delicious. It's such a satisfying feeling seeing it all come together, especially since it's all from scratch. Thank you so much, you guys, for spending this Thanksgiving prep day with me. I hope this inspires you to try a few dishes from scratch this year. Don't forget to like and subscribe and come back, and we will be decorating for Christmas very soon. But let me know in the comments what your favorite Thanksgiving side is. I hope you guys all stay happy, healthy, and safe, and you guys have a great Christmas holiday season.